there, but you can't completely conceptualize it. Levinas says rhythm is blind to concepts. It's another great term that people use. It's rhythmic. It's body more than it is conceptually grasped. But relative to the vulnerability, I would say the simple answer is it's by choice or disruption. That if you forget, don't worry about it. Jung said God is anything good or bad that disrupts my subjective intention. It's going to show up, right? Like it does in all of our work. Vulnerability will come back. It's like this notion of trying to teach people to manage countertransference. We all know about that when I was executioner in the same country. It just keeps going. So the vulnerability is there. Sometimes you can choose it. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll walk into these aha moments, these self-certain moments, these self-sane procedures. My concern is, if it goes too far, I know how you feel, because I felt that way, and I found that, then people are going to respond to me similarly that this client was talking about how they respond to this person at their job, right? There's no connection. When the erotic connection, the eros is broken, something breaks down in the therapeutic process. As long as that eros doesn't result in me falling so far in that I get paralyzed or lose myself.
I guess I'm getting tweaked by, that's my word, is the languaging around when you say, I know how you feel because I felt that way. That's sympathy to me, that's not empathy.
Yes, yes, that's correct. That's correct. Because it's about me.
Right.
Although Buber says...
Because I as a clinician would never say that to my client.
Right.
I would never say, because I know how you feel because I felt that way. Because that's bringing me into it.
Right, but I like this line from Buber, and see, this would be the opposite side of it. In order to know pain, the mind must cast itself into the depths of a felt pain, instead of contemplating it as a spectacle. This is equally the case with all events of the soul, which resemble mystery rather than spectacle, and whose meaning remains hidden to whoever refuses to enter the dance.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by that what Buber's talking about, that immersion.
Right.
Has to be there. Without what you're saying, then it becomes about me. If I immerse in sympathy, you're right, it becomes about me. The therapist's not about the client.
Right.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think it's good. Tony, I'll take it.
I think the question I'm asking is about stamina.
Like ego strength?
Well, like I'm a full-time therapist and working for the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority. I see X number of clients a day. There's an expectation that I will keep my client encounters at a certain level. And so I'm wondering, from that vulnerability, love point of view, how does a person develop the stamina to hold that?
My response would be that I get energy from this, not draining.
Exactly. That's what
I
helps you
I saw 11 yesterday. Yeah, 11 hours without a break yesterday. So, I actually, if I can stay in here, get energy from that.
I do as well, except I usually say it's two things for me. It's exhilarating and exhausting.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Yeah, and so...
then you get into that notion of self-care, managing your own boundaries and your own personal self-care. And that's, I think, important information that's being shared with us all the time. Our work really requires a presence that other professions don't require.
But if you ever watched Rogers, one thing, especially if you've seen him live, he had an extraordinary ability to concentrate for long periods of time that is not sort of a gift. And most of us don't have that. We might learn to develop that, but that was part of what he could do so well. He just could focus intently longer and better than anybody I've ever seen. And I've seen many talented therapists, but nobody who came to that level. But, so to embrace this sort of thing, I think we have to cultivate our ability to focus in that way.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
And I would think another way to answer the question in terms of how we sustain ourselves in it, at least from my perspective, is that in the session, in the moment, I'm in that with my client. So that also is what not only invigorates me, but I'm seeing him or her invigorate again too. In that session, I've already, for lack of a better word right now, there's been some healing movement. So yes, I'm exhausted at the end of the day, but it's because there's been this synergy and this energy between myself and the client. And so as they receive me, as I'm receiving them and open the space, I'm seeing something that feeds me, feeds them. So that's what kind of, so it's not just me being vulnerable the entire day. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's in the vulnerability, there's also the relational healing and sustainability in the work.
Yeah, there's a certain oscillation.
Correct, because I might argue that that's what brings the client back for the following session. So I think that's how I would.
Possible to ignore. Juanita's psychiatric intake paperwork revealed that she had endorsed a long list of depression symptoms, including poor sleep, poor appetite, anhedonia, irritability, low mood, low energy, crying, rumination, and passive suicidal ideation. Although she was outgoing by nature, Juanita spent most of her time sitting alone in her apartment. She said that she felt like the walls were closing in on her. More dramatically, she frequently had visions of a deceased former partner and her deceased teenage son speaking with her. The psychiatrist who had initially evaluated Juanita diagnosed her with major depressive disorder, single episode, severe with psychotic features. He attempted to medicate her with Zoloft, which she quickly discontinued, protesting that medication was irrelevant to her condition. I provided a combination of group and individual therapy. My work with Juanita as her therapist had little to do with her diagnosis. Although I attended diagnosis, the extent to which it guides my work as a therapist is limited. Sometimes, focusing on the client's symptoms can be therapeutically fruitful, and in other circumstances, it is a dead end. For me, the more important part of assessment is to carefully attend to the moments in the psychotherapy session that seem to open things up for the client, as well as those moments that seem to shut things down, and try to further develop whatever kind of movement is associated with those moments in which things seem to open up. Simply put, if it feels like something is working, I do more of it. If it feels like something isn't working, I stop doing it. Although I was originally trained in a broad psychodynamic orientation and have been through psychoanalysis myself, I doubt that the way I work with clients can be accurately characterized as psychodynamic. To be sure, there are many intervals of time in psychotherapy sessions with my clients in which undeniably dynamic processes of insight and working through occur. However, there are as many intervals in my sessions in which a more client-centered process is evident, or a more directive solution-focused process, or a more cognitive therapy process. The associated variations in my practice as a therapist are rarely related to diagnostic considerations. Rather, they have more to do with an ongoing process of trying out different things with each client and monitoring how these things go. With Juanita, my approach would have to be described as eclectic, beginning with a lot of close reflective listening, into which I gradually introduced elements of supportive therapy, with the occasional psychodynamic confrontation thrown in, and a strong dash of solution-focused questioning, as Juanita's condition improved. Later in my work with Juanita, I entered training in Eugene Genlin's focusing-oriented therapy, and introduced more experiential practices I learned in therapy to facilitate the working through process. According to Juanita, however, it was my listening that was most vital to me. To breathe. Juanita wasted no time in getting right to the heart of the matter. She told me that she had been depressed ever since the death of her beloved fiancé, Ronald, who had died suddenly from a heart attack 4 months ago. Ronald had asthma and was a lifelong smoker. During the last years of his life, he was frequently ill and unable to breathe properly. Juanita told me that when Ronald had a bout of asthma, he often fell to the floor and crawled, gasping for breath and whispering to Juanita that he could not breathe. Juanita called 911 when Ronald had these episodes. Although Ronald eventually quit smoking, his condition deteriorated. Finally, after one of his respiratory episodes, Ronald was taken by ambulance to the ER in critical condition, accompanied by Juanita. He was treated by ER physicians while lying in a gurney, his body penetrated with tubes and IV lines, while Juanita sat nearby, terrified. Weak and dying, Ronald turned his head in Juanita's direction and softly whispered, "I." Juanita leaned towards him and asked, "What's that you're saying, baby?" Ronald finished, "Love you," and died. And he was dead, 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 Juanita exclaimed, slamming her palms on my desk for punctuation. She said she wanted him to wake up. She climbed on top of him and shook him by the shoulders, screaming, "Wake up, Ronald, wake up, just wake up." Later, at Ronald's funeral, as Juanita watched his coffin lowered into the ground, she felt a piece of her sinking into the ground with it. She could not face Ronald's death. During our first few sessions, Juanita said that Ronald was sitting with us in a chair next to her, saying encouraging things to her. When I asked her about Ronald, she exclaimed, shocked, "What, you don't see him sitting there?" The pendant. Over a series of several sessions, the rest of Juanita's story.
To be the particular therapeutic presence that each person needs. Second, it affords the patient an opportunity to grow, change, and negotiate individual and personal meanings that their lives, that free their lives of totalizing gender considerations. Third, what it requires that we be aware of the experience of our patients. It does not demand an equiprimordial understanding of it from the position of our own lived experience. If you wanna,
Sure.
yeah.
We understand the event of empathy to be an occurrence defined by a willful openness, as Rodrigo was saying, towards another human being that allows their emotional experience in its kind of uniqueness to become present before us. It's a disposition to bear witness to another person that is not predicated on our understanding of what they have endured. When we empathize with another, we care about their unsurpassable humanity. And in so doing, we tend to who they are rather than who we assume them to be. To do this, we dispossess ourselves of the preconceptions, prejudgments, biases that would otherwise cloud our ability to engage another person with unbiased care. To assume this empathic stance toward another is to allow them to be before we know anything about them. It is in the context of empathy that people can feel togetherness in their experience and are allowed to speak on their own behalf and with their own voice. Now to the point about the politics of gender, which Rodrigo mentioned. Traditional gendered expectancies pose a prescription that exemplifies a way of knowing beforehand, before the meeting, that is at odds with the emergence of empathy between individuals. So we believe it is of the utmost impertinence to inquire into the phenomena of doing empathic clinical work with people who do not subscribe to heteronormative assignations of gender. We believe that this inquiry will shed light on two elements at once. First, the weight of the politics of gender on the practice of psychotherapy, and two, the kind of interpersonal openness that allows individuals to develop and negotiate an original sense of personhood. In this work, we wish to illustrate some of the gendered biases that hinder an empathic therapeutic disposition and a stance from which such interests can be overcome. Shall I pass it back?
Dr. Priska is going to throw something at me. Levinasian ethics sustain that a truly ethical stance implies a caring for the other over and above the self. By the very fact that they're existent, the other calls to us and with their presence demands that we care for them and acknowledge their singularity as human beings. We have an obligation of care and concern for the other that is always already there before us and from which we cannot be free. For those of us who comprise the wide array of healers and therapists that abound in every human society, this unavoidable duty confronts us whenever we are called to responsibly care for those who seek our help. However, Levinas also describes the other in distinctly gendered terms, referring to the other as feminine and to the other's infinite capacity for growth and change as the virginity, forever inviolate of the feminine, assigning weakness and passivity in addition maybe to sanctity, to a particular gender category. This quote reflects more than the implicit gender biases that maybe an individual ethicist can have. We also feel that they also speak to a peculiarity within the modern practice of clinical psychology that so often passes beneath our noses unacknowledged. In the ascription of weaknesses and passivity to the feminine, finite.
We had a parent that was overly intrusive or aggressive. We made, first of all, select people who were like that, and then we made our defenses fit their defenses. So we replay this in relationship partly by our selection process. And by distorting the person and seeing them more in terms of their past, and then also provoking them almost to treat us in ways we didn't. So from our book, Self-Under Siege, most people are compliant and rarely deviate from the beliefs and opinions held by their parents and tend to live conventional and predictable lives. They fail to recognize their lack of differentiation, the fact that they are reliving rather than living their own life. Others adopt a defiant stance in opposition to their parents' ideas and values, and approach life as an approach to life, mistakenly believing that in their defiance they are having their own identity, but they're just reacting against and not really being themselves either. However, compliance and defiance are both driven by the views, behaviors, and lifestyle of our parents, and neither is truly representative of one's own identity or self. It is of the utmost importance to take both of these contingencies into consideration when operating on the project of differentiation. So both the ways we reacted that where we've adopted those patterns and the ways we're reacting against, but still not finding out who we are. The fourth step is to develop our own values and our own adult approach to life, to fulfill our own destiny as a unique individual human being, our potential. Okay, so I'm going to show you a short clip of my father talking about his theoretical theory. It integrates concepts from psychodynamic or psychoanalytic systems of thought and existential systems of thought. And basically, by looking at the two kinds of emotional pain that we all face throughout life. The first is that we have emotional pain from our interpersonal relationships from the beginning of life. And then we also have pain from existential issues, starting with the realization of death, which happens for children somewhere between the ages of 3 and 7. And often they first realize that their parents are going to die and then that they're going to die. It's a very hard time for parents to start asking a lot of questions about death, which are very uncomfortable for parents. I did some research about that. It's interesting. But these two kinds of pain are, and in light of these two kinds of pain, the real decision is whether the core conflict that we have is whether to live a defended life or fending off these emotions, or whether to live an undefended life where we're fully feeling and experiencing our life. We cannot selectively cut off painful emotions and feel good. We need to have access to all of our emotions. But I think people are always living somewhere in this balance between living more at an offended level or being more undefended in terms of effectiveness. And the fantasy bond is what we consider the primary defense against psychological pain, is a fantasy or an illusion of being connected to another person that makes us feel safe. Originally formed with our primary caretakers and often recreated in our lives in our romantic relationships and with our children. They become our project of how we're going to live on, and so forth. And we see the critical inner voice of these negative thought processes is kind of a secondary line of defense that supports this fantasy bond or this self-protected way of living. I just was doing an intensive workshop with a couple this week who flew in to see me, and it was very clear how their critical inner voices were directing them to be defended against each other and stay in that pseudo-independent posture. They're both caretaker type of individuals who've now come together and can't take any caretaking from the other. And so again, the core conflict is this living an undefended lifestyle or being more defended in our relationships. Our definition of the fantasy bond is that it's an illusion of connection originally imagined matrilineal fusion or joining with the mother or the primary caretaker. And it's used here in our theory to describe both the original imaginary connection formed during childhood and also the repetitive efforts that adults make to make those connections and to stay connected to their parents as well.
You like a, oh yeah,
I love your artwork, by the way.
through what I was allowed to.
I like oil paint, it stays wet, and I can just keep moving it around and changing the color. But at one point, my mom wanted me to take courses with her, and I was afraid to take courses because with my personality, it would then have to be something I was good at, and I wanted it to just be talking about
I noticed that.
I didn't get around to smoking. I'm gonna go smoking.
I'll go. I don't mind sitting back there. It's outside. Do you want to take a walk to the smoking area?
I'm going to check in. I'm grabbing little of everybody's.
Are you guys going to sell the recording of this?
The only one that I'm aware of that's going to get sold is pictures on that, and they kind of hold.
We wanted a copy of it.
The other thing I think it's kind of on with the Santa Barbara, they got to I let them do it on the agreement.
But will we be
That's
able to
what I
copy of the whole thing?
No, it's not all the, it's not all the, I'm just going around.
Trust me, this is a one-time kind of thing, the way this is. We'll have more conferences, but this is pretty, come and film it, take pictures, and this might be.
Well, I knew that wasn't going to happen. That's why I bought that camera. And you know, I've seen this. I've seen this stuff happen before. So I mean, there's great, you know, material that's presented one time.
Yeah.
And then people can move on to their next, you know.
Well, I would like to remember what I said. That's, you know.
Well, I'll try and get around, and you know, at some point I'm going to be presenting too. So, you know, I'm just trying today to get around and get 5 minutes of everybody, you know, and so it's just a little clip, and sometimes it doesn't work. You know, it's not a very good moment in their presentation, or someone asks a question, you can't hear it, and all that stuff. But, you know, this is kind of a nice thing to have, and we'll see. Maybe we can put a clip up on the Webster or the Facebook or something like that. So.
And by the way, I am going to buy 2 T-shirts.
That's what I'm talking about.
It was awesome. I loved it when I saw it.
That's all. That money goes to all the students.
Yeah.
So we take that money and we try to help the students who are, you know, from our ambassador program, And I take whatever money it is, I chop it up and give it to him to cut down on travel.
Well, I'm gonna buy one for myself, and my dad collects T-shirts, so I'll buy one for him.
All right, very good, very good. So we're
Spreading the
I'm
love.
glad to see you.
Yeah.
It's too, the virtual persons is one thing, but it's always nice to put a face to.
Yeah, no, I
to
feel like
some-
I know people that I don't know. It's been great.
I want to say something. I know someone's looking for you. I know someone's looking for you. Yes. What was your name again? Okay, my coup is, someone was presenting at the same time you were.
Yeah, I think he found it.
Okay.
Justin, I think his name.
He was a presenter. Yeah, okay, good. Good. I was going to say, I couldn't figure out who it was. Very good. Uh-oh, she's starting to look peaked.
Sweating it out, that's all.
All right.
So this is conference stuff, t-shirt stuff, and then there's your tickets, this is your money box. You have money in it already.
So only one purchase.
Two purchases.
We're down to 1 hour, which would upset just about anybody. So.
Yeah, how did that happen? Did they just decide to? Apparently not. We'd like there to be more hours in the day?
Hey, 14 to 5. Silas.
I know, and I'm in the other room. I'm pissed.
Oh, we're gonna see Tristan.
No, I'm not presenting.
Oh, no.
I'm sitting in the other room doing a CEU session. I'm not presenting. I'm only presenting on 2 separate things.
Only?
Yeah.
Only 2?
Only 2.
Everybody's going to be one.
One about multiculturalism.
This is the group.
And the other on sports psychology.
Yeah, well done.
I like sports psych. It is humanistic if you make.
An article on extreme sports, like the phenomenological experience.
Yeah.
For the Everglades challenge. I don't know what that is, but some kind of extreme.
I can imagine it's something to do with swimming with the alligators. I would envision. It seems like an extreme
Try to
sport.
avoid being eaten by an alligator. So here's that.
Is that what you're going to do? If you're in there, use that camera. Capture 5
Which one is it?
or something.
Room G?
So did you got all of Nathaniel's talk? That's cool.
I will be sitting in room B listening to something about seeking compassion in the dark, sex trafficking survivors in Kolkata.
Why's your phone like brick?
Because I break things. I got an iPhone. Within a week I
Look at this thing. It feels like 100 pounds.
I broke the outer box.
How do you can't even get that out of your pocket?
No.
How big the damn
No.
You can't fit this in? You need a
Yeah, I
purse.
can fit it in my wallet.
Oh my god, it's actual hard.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
Oh, maybe I took it out.
Do you know how many, I dropped my other outer box so many times I actually broke the plastic on the outer box. And they sent me a new one.
Well, you know what? I broke mine, so it still works.
It's in my little
But
tiny wallet.
Your phone is bulging out of it.
you can't even get that. Like, that was mine. I couldn't get it out of my
What you
pocket.
should do
It'd
is
be ringing.
attach a keychain to the actual iPhone cover, because the iPhone cover is your purse.
I know, it should be. It does have a card in the back seat. It fits.
It should have a pocket on the back of your iPhone cover.
My pretty wallet.
Yeah.
I do, I have cards in the back of there. I actually have my auto shop card in the back of there.
Auto shop.
Because I got my car fixed on Monday.
Could you also break cars?
I do
Not
break
just-
What are
cars.
you guys are cruising out, and you guys are. You're not going to be at the reception.
Where did this
here?
come from? Scott Church wrote all this?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be at the reception tonight. What reception is there?
What,
Well,
tonight?
there's the posters.
Yeah, I'm missing out.
You're missing out on free wine and free cheese.
Yeah, you can have my wine for me.
I have
you
to
know,
drive.
You're not having it. You can have my wine.
I have to drive, no.
You're not allowed any wine.
Oh,
Where are you
God.
staying?
That's Best Western. I also have a designated driver who can drive my car, so
Yeah.
I have my bases covered.
We're all at the Best Western. We're at 251, and Rich and Lewis are next.
I
two doors
haven't
down.
checked into my hotel yet, so I don't know what room I'm in yet.
So you guys can pop
Oh,
in.
so the poster is after? We might
After
need a bottle
dinner.
of wine or dinner.
Well, we could
should
spot the
get
one
one.
right now.
Should
They're
we
right
do
under the table.
Yeah, but if we do it,
Everyone's gonna know who it was.
I mean, we can, I don't know.
No one's gonna
We
mind.
brought it.
By the way, these are clutch for the
You
people
like
at the
our
back of the
stuff?
room. So when people have time to stop, they'll stop.
Yeah, they're being timed, so you get like 5 minutes.
That's pretty good.
1 minute,
Stop sign's good.
stop.
That's clever.
5 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute, and stop.
Yeah, all you need is 5, 1, stop. Or 10, 5. You do 10, 5, stop.
All right. It's surprising how many people we don't know.
Well, they finally colored in.